It's true. All of it.
My only problem is that he's dead right now.
The Force is strong in my family.
Not going to try to do my Dave Filoni impersonation tonight.
Do or do not. There is no try.
You don't know how purple hyperspace works.
I am a Jedi, like my father before me.
We've got Ahsoka Tano, Boba Fett, Captain Rex, Sabine Wren, Bo-Katan, and now this unnamed character. Dare I question whether or not this might actually be too many characters making their appearance in season 2?
We're not done yet.
The line from Luke of I've only seen this raw strength once before, it didn't scare me then, but it does now. Maybe he's not talking about Ben. Maybe he's talking about Palpatine. Welcome, Star Wars fans. This is Tatooine Sons, your weekly look at all things Star Wars from the unique perspective of a father sharing his love for the amazing space fantasy saga with his two sons. I am BB Nate, and I'm joined first by my brother, Samuel the Hutt.
Shoot to Star Wars fans, thanks for tuning in. And if you're not a Star Wars fan, then you're probably still wondering who Rey's parents are.
I think we're all still wondering who Rey's parents are.
And of course, you can't have Star Wars without bizarre father figures. So on that note, here's my dad, the Bowtie Jedi guy.
Well, guys, we're gonna knock this thing out. We're gonna jump right in, talk about some hot takes, try to get it done in 30 minutes or less. You think we can do it?
Speed run.
It's like a hyperspace Kessel run for it. All right. Carl Weathers is just too pretty to be an alien. The cast for season 2 of The Mandalorian is going to need a 50-passenger bus to get to the set, and the Grand Inquisitor wants to make his live-action debut. That's all up next on Hot Takes.
Are you brainless?
I never ask that question till after I've done it.
All right, now these hot takes are courtesy of our friends over at farfarawaynews.com. These guys are, again, they're putting out some of the best content. They're aggregating some of the best stories from all over the web. And the one thing you can always count on when you go to farfarawaynews.com is that there's not going to be any clickbait. These are actually real stories. So check those guys out. All right, here we go, guys. Greef Karga was originally supposed to be an alien in The Mandalorian. In a recent episode of Disney Gallery, The Mandalorian, we learned some very interesting information about Carl Weathers' character, Greef Karga. Jon Favreau went on and said he said he was going to be in full prosthetics as a different alien race, and then we switched it up. And then Favreau also admitted that the character was only slated for 2 episodes. The first episode, and then the third one where he was actually going to be killed off. That was probably in that moment when...
when the Mando shot him where the ingot was or whatever.
The Beskar.
Yeah. His
Yeah.
chest.
Let's see. Then Weathers came in. This is actually Dave Filoni. Not going to try to do my Dave Filoni impersonation tonight. But then Weathers came in and talked, and we were like, how are we going to cover up his face with prosthetics?
This is madness.
Filoni elaborated. Samuel Hutt, The Mandalorian is one of your favorite things in Star Wars of all time.
Mm-hmm.
Tell us, why do you like Greef Karga?
Yeah, I mean, a large part of why I like him is he reminds me a lot of like old Lando. He's seen some stuff, but he knows what he's doing, and he's just kind of got that smooth, kind of put together kind of vibe in a sense. Yeah.
A lot of fun. What about you, BB Nate? The Mandalorian isn't quite your... I mean, you like it. You love The Mandalorian. But you're into droids and cute little characters like Turbis the Porg. So what is it about Greef Karga that seems to interest you or intrigue you?
Well, how he can hold himself in a battle. Any battle, really. I mean, he can hold himself with the battle at the end of episode 3, I'm pretty sure, against the...
all of The Mandalorian.
Yeah.
That whole clan.
Yeah. And so he could just hold himself up a lot, and he's very good at keeping himself up. He got lucky with the ingot. That's really the only thing he got lucky about.
That's true.
So he has skill on any other field.
So the Mando's kind of the only one who can outbest him in a sense?
Technically.
Technically, yeah.
Technically?
Technically.
Don't get technical with me.
Katie Sackhoff and Timothy Oliphant are added to an increasingly crowded cast of characters for season 2 of The Mandalorian. Katie Sackhoff, who actually voiced Bo-Katan in The Clone Wars and in Rebels, will be portraying her in live action for the Disney Plus show. Slashfilm.com actually noted that while both Lucasfilm and Sackhoff's reps declined to comment, that they have confirmed the story from multiple sources. So it seems pretty legitimate. And then the Hollywood Reporter went on and reported that Timothy Oliphant from what was the name of that?
Justified.
Justified was the name of the show that he was really most known for. He's actually going to be joining The Mandalorian and will appear in season 2 of the Disney Plus Star Wars series. His character is, as far as who he plays in the story, we still do not know. BB Nate. Here's the deal. All right. We've got Ahsoka Tano, Boba Fett, Captain Rex, Sabine Wren, Bo-Katan, and now this unnamed character played by Timothy Oliphant.
I got a bad feeling about
Gary's question whether or not this might actually be too many characters making their appearance in season 2.
No, it's a very go big or go home season. I mean, we already know they're having a third one, but I think that they're just wanting to try to up what they did in the first one because there's already high enough expectations for it. So I think that they're just trying to amp up the hype, I guess, for the season.
Yeah, I mean, season 1 was a big deal. I think it well exceeded their expectations for how that show was going to perform. I think season 1 was kind of a test run to see if this had any merit at all. And when it absolutely skyrocketed, they're realizing its potential and how they can use influential characters and popular characters that people love, and they can bring it into the show and it will work. You don't have to worry about backlash.
Star Wars Rebels featured some of the galaxy's most popular characters, including Ahsoka, Captain Rex, Kanan Jarrus, Ezra Bridger, Sabine Wren, many more. Some of those that are actually going to be appearing in season 2 of The Mandalorian. But Jason Isaacs actually voiced one of the most compelling and interesting characters in the first couple of seasons of Star Wars Rebels, the Grand Inquisitor. And he actually went on Collider and explained why he would like to see the Grand Inquisitor actually appear in live action form someday. And he has the coolest lightsaber in the entire Star Wars universe. All right. While this might be true, my question for you guys is a live action Grand Inquisitor actually a good idea?
I think so. I would love to see that character in live action. He's got this put together but menacing aura in a sense that would come across really well in live action. My only problem is that he's dead right now in the story. He died in when did he die again?
End of season 2, last episode of season 2.
So pretty early on in Rebels then.
Killed by Kanan Jarrus, which actually is one of the reasons why Kanan Jarrus is one of the coolest characters in all of the greatest Jedi ever, because the Grand Inquisitor was responsible for killing, dare I say, dozens, if not hundreds of Jedi, and Kanan killed him. So anyway, that's my thought. What about you, BB Nate? What do you think about the Grand Inquisitor potentially coming to live action?
I would really enjoy it because that character was always very interesting about how he was, at least we learned in the Dark Lord of the Sith comics, he was not allowed to find the knowledge in the Jedi archives, and that was his main goal of becoming the Inquisitor. So that was really interesting. So I really think that it would be possible, maybe a live action show in between 3 and Rebels, because
well, that's an interesting idea.
I wouldn't mind that.
Because that's a period that has not been explored. The close of Order 66, the Great Jedi Purge story, has not been explored anything outside of the comic books and a little bit in the Lord of the Sith novel. Was that in there a little bit?
I think that and the Vader series. Right. The Vader comic series.
Exactly. So do we see the Inquisitors? Do we have an opportunity for Darth Vader to potentially be coming into the storyline and showing up, making some cameos like he's done in Rebels in the past? I think that would be awesome. Now, just before we began recording, there was some breaking news. It's from ScreenRant.com. You guys, I don't think are ready for this. They just reported today that a live-action Ahsoka TV series is coming to Disney Plus, and here's what it says. Lucasfilm is reportedly working on an Ahsoka Tano project for Disney Plus, according to 2 sources. Daniel RPK is reporting that there's some sort of project in development centered on the former Jedi. And then, meanwhile, Fandom Wire reports more details. Now, they're saying that it will be set after the events of Rebels and will feature Hera, Zeb, and the Ghost's trusted droid Chopper. Dave Filoni is said to be overseeing the series as its narrative chronicles, the group's continued search for the missing Ezra Bridger. Given this, Grand Admiral Thrawn is actually supposedly going to show up in this series. Other than that, there are no other details about the show that have been revealed. Go for it. What are you guys thinking?
And that does still fit in with my theory that they might have found Thrawn and didn't find Ezra.
That's true. It could still work that way.
You think that they found Thrawn and Thrawn's helping them find Ezra? Maybe they.
Well, I think that what that they're implying from this in this article is that when they find Ezra, or in the process of finding Ezra, they find Thrawn in this series. But it would be really interesting.
We don't know how space whale force broken star.
Was that the Purgle? Is that what they call it?
Yeah, Purgle.
Yeah, Purgles.
We don't know how Purgle hyperspace works.
Yeah.
So.
Well, we're about to find out, I have a feeling. I think it's really an interesting idea. Do you think that they're introducing all of these characters in live action for these short cameos in season 2 of The Mandalorian for the purpose of getting them introduced live action before this series starts?
It seems like The Mandalorian is the Avengers of the MCU, kind of just bringing in all the characters and then having the standalone series after that. So,
yeah, and does that mean that Dave Filoni is the Kevin Feige of Star Wars now? Now, very little has divided Star Wars fandom over the past 4 years, more than the question of who Rey's parents were. I think probably the only other thing would be who Snoke is. The Force Awakens gave us no answers at all. The Last Jedi told us that she was nobody. And then the Rise of Skywalker had her go from nobody to Palpatine's granddaughter, and then just decided to assume the name of Skywalker at the end. So in this whole scenario, though, the story of Rey is really just one of learning that your lineage matters much less than who you choose to become.
Hokey religions and ancient weapons are no match for a good blaster at your side, kid.
Rebellions are built on hope.
I find your lack of faith disturbing.
All right, guys, before we get into sort of the Rey and standing on her own and who she is and that kind of thing, let's just get some initial thoughts on Rey. Samuel, what do you think about the character of Rey Skywalker? You've sort of been a part of, or she's been a part of your fandom as you've come into this.
Yeah. I love her character. I love how she's strong and she stands up for herself throughout the whole series. But in Force Awakens, especially, she's surviving all by herself and she's doing fine with it. And that's what I love is she's strong. But also, it's been kind of cool because Nathan and I have kind of grown up with the character as the character's grown. So it kind of has a special meaning for us as well.
That's really awesome. What about you, BB Nate? What do you love so much about Rey?
Her story is very intriguing, how she grew up and how each main Jedi in each trilogy has not known their parents, really. I mean, Anakin didn't know his father, Luke didn't know his real parents, and Rey didn't. I mean, she knew her parents, but she was abandoned by them. Yeah. So they've all had parent problems in the trilogy, and so she deals with it better than most. She's actually trying to find her parents, and I don't really think that Anakin's looking for his father, and Luke doesn't really care about who. Well,
Luke thinks his father's dead.
Yeah, so it's just there's not much there for them, but Rey actually tries to find her parents.
It's really interesting. Nice. Very cool. Now, we're going to talk about it, Rey, from the perspective of her parentage, her lineage, and how it defines her in each movie, and it actually kind of creates her motivations throughout this story. I'm going to start with the Force Awakens. It's where we're introduced to her, but I think it's really important that as we begin this conversation about Rey, we recall or recognize that as fans, we're concerned with who her parents are. We're looking for, is she the daughter of Han and Leia, or is she Luke's daughter with Mara Jade or some other person at some point that he had a relationship with? And we're asking those questions because it's important to us. But Rey in this story, if you're seeing things from her perspective, she already knows who her parents are. You recall it from that Force back vision. She sees them going away on Ochi's ship, or we later find out it's Ocean's
Right.
ship. She's staying there in the AT-AT that she's, the abandoned thing that she's made her home. She's marking off the days that it's been since they left because she's anticipating them coming back. When she's on the Millennium Falcon, she is telling Finn, I need to get back to Jakku because she's got to be there for when her parents arrive. She says the same thing to Han. Han offers her a spot on his crew, and she wants to get back to Jakku because of her family. So Rey doesn't have the same concern over who her lineage is that we have. She knows who they are. Okay. But something actually happens in The Force Awakens that begins to change everything. All right. This moment when she has this awakening that Snoke talks about to Kylo Ren, everything shifts. She starts experiencing these powers, and it starts creating the questions of how do I have these abilities? Mm-hmm. Where do these come from? And that's what propels her forward in the story, actually even into the next movie.
Yeah. The Last Jedi, I mean, it only takes place a few days after The Force Awakens, after all this stuff's been happening. And she's been thrust into this story that she's just not prepared for. I mean, just a few days ago, she was scavenging for junk on Jakku, and now she's in the middle of a galactic war. So she begins to question why she's a part of this at all. She's talking to Luke, and Luke's not being entirely helpful. And, he asks her who she is, and she says, I'm just nobody. I'm nobody in this. But it gets her thinking about why she's here, and she even begins to question her own, or who her parents are, like really begin to question who her parents are. And so she's finally like thinking the way that the fans are thinking and asking the questions the fans are thinking. So then there's the that Force cave vision, and this is where things really start happening. So she gets to that cave wall, and she sees the two silhouettes coming towards her, and maybe she's thinking that's Han and Leia, right? Kind of like what we've been thinking. And then it shifts into one person, and we're thinking maybe it's Luke. And then she's confronted with her own fears as to who it really is, and it's just her, that she has nobody. And later, when she's having that Force time vision with Kylo, mm-hmm. he doesn't lie or make anything up. He's just saying exactly what she knows. He says you're nobody. And she's broken because she knows that as well. But if this is the case, if she really is nobody, though, why is she a part of the story at all? How does she come into the story? And I think the Rise of Skywalker is what really starts to like answer these questions and help us understand why this is the case.
Yeah, absolutely.
And the Rise of Skywalker happens a year after The Last Jedi, so we have a big time jump in between that. And she's still trying to answer the question that we're all asking still, who her parents are and why are they not with her and all that stuff. And she can't hear the Jedi is what Leia's like, you'll take patience, you'll hear them sometime, but she still can't hear them even though she's trying everything. And she's trying to get away from the darkness inside of her, the visions she's having and everything like that. It's corrupting her, and she doesn't know what to do with that. And it's making her not complete her training as well. And mm-hmm. maybe that's a part of why she can't hear the Jedi.
Yeah, I mean, and it even impacts the progression of her mission when she blows up the that shuttle, and she thinks she kills Chewie with it too.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and then she's given an answer for why she's a part of this story, but it wasn't the one that she was looking for.
Definitely not.
I don't think any of us were even expecting that at all.
No. Well, I was because I was spoiled, but anyway, yeah.
She's Palpatine's granddaughter-ish. We learn in the book that her father is a clone of Palpatine that he was trying to use as a different... It's a long story.
Save it for the novel. Yeah. All right.
But the clone wasn't Force sensitive at all, and that's why he was able to live a life. So Rey could still be considered a nobody. Didn't come from a Force sensitive lineage at all. So she finds a new family. She finds Poe and Finn and Leia and Han and Luke and all those people. That's her family throughout this trilogy, mm-hmm. not what she was and her
her bloodline.
Yeah, her lineage that she thought was inescapable, what she didn't want to have as her parents or have as her grandfather. But she was able to escape from that with her new family and who she actually loves and it finds to be a family. And so she takes on the name of the best Jedi and the best person she knew, the Skywalkers, which was Leia, her family. Mm-hmm. So she takes on the name of the Skywalker, and now we know her as Rey Skywalker.
That's awesome. It's interesting that we sometimes forget that Leia can relate to who Rey is, and this idea of a bloodline that's less than
perfect.
Well, less than honorable. One of the novels that we love the most is the Bloodline novel. It's all about Leia being exposed as the daughter of Darth Vader. I don't think it's actually been answered. Maybe you know this, BB Nate or Sam. You could maybe know this. Have they actually revealed when in the chronology, when in the timeline, Luke and then later Leia found out Rey is the granddaughter of Palpatine? Do we know when that occurred?
I don't think that's ever been fully explained.
No, I don't think so. Maybe I think that they kind of retconned it with she always knew, she felt it and that kind of stuff, and maybe she just knew about it because of the force that they felt around her, something like that. But we don't really know. The line from Luke of "I've only seen this raw strength once before," it didn't scare me then, but it does now. Maybe he's not talking about Ben.
Ooh.
Maybe he's talking about Palpatine, because that's when he probably would figure it out. And because you really see him in Return of the Jedi, he's not quite like super afraid of Palpatine. He goes and confronts him. That's what he does. He's not afraid of him. But then he noticed all of this stuff, and he had a granddaughter, and he has a clone. Now he knows he's still alive.
Now, for this week's dad moment, every single one of us craves connection. We want to be part of something that's bigger. Family is often where we find that early on in our lives, but not everyone comes from healthy family situations. Many families experience brokenness and pain. Others, have parents or siblings or family members that have done things that we aren't proud of or that causes us shame. And so it's a challenge for a lot of people, just like it was with Rey. The thing that we learned from Rey is that our destinies aren't determined by our family lineage. It's a really interesting idea to think of her as learning to stand on her own, but doing that by finding a new family and making new choices with that. And generations past don't have to define who we become. With the help of others like Poe and Leia and Finn and the rest of the Resistance, Rose, we can become better than some of these generational cycles. Our future doesn't have to be determined by someone else's past. And that's a lesson that we can learn from Rey. Now, next week, we're going to learn about the living force from the great Jedi Master Qui-Gon Jinn. And I think that's going to be a really interesting conversation. Can't wait for it. All right, is there anything else you guys want to talk about?
In the late 1970s, Spider-Man actually dueled Doctor Doom with lightsabers.
Yeah, they did amazing things in Marvel Comics in the late 70s. There weren't all these weird restrictions and crossover craziness and stuff like that. They let them do whatever they wanted, and that was an amazing moment. So
yeah. So Mark Hamill says that he actually objected to George Lucas's Star Wars happy ending in Episode 6, which, you need to think, just because Mark Hamill says that he didn't like something doesn't mean that he doesn't like the director or that he's even right.
Yeah, I mean, exactly. We see this in the fact that he wanted Boba Fett to be his mommy with it. So, all right. And then last one, someone put Star Wars dogfights, the whole A, B, X, Y, Z, 12, I don't know, all of those fighters, X-Wings over in dogfights over Kenny Loggins' Danger Zone from Top Gun. Have you guys seen this one yet? Have you
I've not seen this video.
You got to check it out after the recording tonight. It is so fun to watch with that. All right, well, that's it for this week's episode. Thank you guys so much for joining us, for tuning in. We're definitely excited about doing this show, and you make this show possible. If you're listening to this on audio, please give us a review on iTunes or Spotify or Google Podcasts, whatever service that you're using. If you're watching this on Facebook, we would really appreciate it if you just take the time as soon as this is over to click on the Tatooine Sons logo, go to our page, give us a review right there. It will help more people find us on Facebook and find the show on that. We definitely appreciate that. All right, we're going to be back next week for our conversation about Qui-Gon Jinn and the Living Force. Every week we come out with a new episode on Monday evenings at 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific.
There you go.
There we go. I got it right. And we'd love for you to be part of the conversation in the meantime. So make sure you like our page here on Facebook and then really search out. And I'll put a link in it in the notes here for you to go to our Facebook discussion group. We want you to be participating in the conversation in the week between these episodes so that you can help us kind of guide the show and direct. And we want you to be a part of it. So make sure you're doing that. Of course, follow us on Instagram, follow us on Twitter. I think that's pretty much it. Again, as I've said on the audio a bunch of times, we don't do Snapchat because I have no idea how that thing works. Anything else that you guys want to say?
May the Force be with you.
May the Force be with you.
This party's over.
I like that Wookiee.
Don't get technical with me.
Joy, please.
Yep, yep.